Welcome to the dynamic learning hub of ExcelR at Andheri East. A prime spot conveniently located at just a 5-minute walk from LIC Andheri Metro. In our journey of over a decade, we have proudly trained over 2 lakh students. We have also been recognized by Deloitte, Silicon India, and other accreditation bodies. Experience learning like never before in our spacious and comfortable classrooms. With high-definition projectors and state-of-the-art acoustics in place, we ensure effective learning even to the farthest point in the room. The hybrid mode is a game changer as you can enjoy the benefits of a live classroom from the comfort of your home. Even if you happen to miss any classroom session, you can still attend the same session with the same trainer at the same time at your convenience, maintaining consistency in your learning progress. Wanna get started? Join us for a demo or career chat over a cup of coffee at our Andheri branch. ExcelR. We don't just train, we build careers.
Yes, so the collaboration with ExcelR was an excellent one. We conducted a Power BI workshop with Advanced Excel over a span of 3 days. The workshop was almost 12 hours long in total. Mr. Karthik, who was an amazing trainer, helped the students understand the concepts deeply. I am sure that the students will be able to apply these concepts in their careers as well as their daily lives.
The trainer, Mr. Karthik, was an excellent person where he explained in very detailed manner on how to give great insights using very complex data sets.
So it was a machine learning workshop. We learned a lot from the course and it was a great experience attending the workshop.
The trainer was very helpful. He had a hands-on approach with his teaching and it was fabulous.
This was a great experience for me. So I would absolutely love it if ExcelR and its team would come again to our campus and conduct more events like this.
It was a great course and it started from basics and took me to a great extent.
The experience of the workshop was really nice. The feedback from all the students was positive. They understood the concept. The workshop was also practical based with some questions. The experience with ExcelR was very smooth. They helped us in conducting the workshop smoothly right from the booking of the vendor and deciding the course till the distribution of certificates. In overall, this workshop was a success during our technical fest.
Good evening, all. I hope you are doing well. Okay, we will start the session. Good evening, Melissa.
Yeah, hey Susmita, hi, good evening.
Yeah, you can start the session. So.
Yes, thank you. Hey guys, good evening to everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
So far, we have discussed about what is meant by SonarQube and Jenkins, and we have created a Jenkins CI/CD pipeline with SonarQube. We have integrated SonarQube with Jenkins, and also we have done code quality of our application using SonarQube with Jenkins CI/CD pipeline. So today we are going to start about what is mean by Docker. See, before understanding what is mean by Docker, it is good to understand why Docker. If you understand why, then it is easy to understand what. So let me explain why Docker. Then it is easy to understand what is mean by Docker. So let me share my screen. Let me share. Yeah. Just look at the screen. Let me go with the flow chart. Yeah. So just assume there is application. The application name is like a Flipkart. So there is a requirement, there is a client. Let me get a client. Here is a client. The client requirement is we have a client. Let me name it. We have a client. Yeah. Yeah. So there is a client. The client requirement is, let me, yeah. So the client requirement is, the client wanted one Flipkart application. Let me get Flipkart application logo. Let me get the Flipkart application logo. Let me take a screenshot of it. Okay, come to the flowchart. Just let me paste it. Yeah. This is the client requirement. This is the client requirement. Yeah. So what if the client requirement is Flipkart application? So the client approach to development team. There is a development team. Let me get developers. Developer 1, developer 2, developer 3, developer 4. So we have a development team. Let me name it. Developer 1. Then let me name it developer 2. Then let me name it developer 3. There is a developer 3. There is a developer 4 we have. Developer 4 we have. Yeah. So you guys are know about what usually developers will do in any IT domain. So developers' main responsibility is to develop the application. So, but here, let me explain. So this developer 1 using Windows operating system. Developer 1 using Windows operating system. Developer 2 using Mac OS operating system, MacBook. Developer 3 using some Linux operating system. developer 4 using some other different operating system, like same Windows operating system. Just assume Windows operating system only, but version is different. Windows 11 or Windows 3, Windows 12. So is these developer 4 developers we have client approach. So client approach team lead. So let me get team lead. So here is a team lead available. There is a team lead or manager. Let me name it. There is a team lead. There is a team lead or manager. Yeah. So the client approach team lead or manager to build a Flipkart application for me. Let me go down. Yeah. So client approach to the manager or team lead. So the requested client develop Flipkart application. So the client want to develop or team lead want to build a Flipkart application. So the team lead or manager hire 4 developers: developer 1, developer 2, developer 3, developer 4. See, these 4 developers using different operating systems, but usually what we need whenever you want to deploy any application, usually what we require, there will be a application source code. There will be application source code. There will be a application libraries. There will be a application libraries. There will be a application dependencies. There will be a application dependencies. There will be a application environments. There will be a application configuration files. There will be a application configuration files. So mainly you can take any application. We will see this kind of information in any application repository, GitHub repository. So application source code, application libraries, application dependencies, application environment, and application configuration files. Usually these are the mandatory things whenever you want to run or deploy any application. So these 4 developers developed for suppose, let me name it. So the developer one need to work on backend code, a front-end application. Developer need work on front-end part. Developer 2 work on backend part. So developer 3 work on database part. Developer 3 work on some features, some application services. So definitely application has some services, right? If you go to Flipkart application, definitely there will be a order service, wish list, super kind zone plus, and payment list. See, these are this kind of services we can able to have, we can see in Flipkart application. So those services, developer 4 need to develop or write the code. So we have the 4 developers. These 4 developers have team lead distributed the application development work. Hey, developer 1, please develop the code for a front-end part. Hey, developer 2, please develop the code, write the code for backend part. Developer 3, you have to work on database part. Developer 4, please work on services part for the application. But the developer 1 has developed front-end part. He is completed. Then application is working fine in his laptop. So he developed the code. Usually developers, whenever completed the code, immediately they will run the application in their system, local system or local server. So it is working fine. There is no any issue. And also developer 2 also completed backend part. The developer 2 tested the application, how it is running. It's working fine in his laptop. And developer 3 developed completed database part. It is working. User data is storing in database server. It is working in his laptop. Then developer 4, he completed services part for Flipkart application. The developer also run their application. It is working fine. There is no any issues in his laptop only. But one fine day, these 4 developers has to bring the entire code together. So how can they bring that entire different see, developer 1 has front-end part code, developer 2 has back-end part code, developer 3 has database part code, developer 4 has services part code. So if we want to apply, if DevOps team want to apply the application, but they want full application code. So what development team need to do? They have to create one GitHub repository. So in that GitHub repository, they have to push their source code into GitHub repository. They have to push their source code into GitHub repository. They have to push their source code into GitHub repository. Okay, it is done as per the team lead requirement. They have pushed their source code into GitHub repository. So let me name it. Developer 1 pushed their code into GitHub repository. Developer 2 also pushed the source code into GitHub repository. Developer 4 also pushed their source code into GitHub repository. Developer 3 also pushed their source code into GitHub repository. So GitHub repository will give one URL. Already we know about GitHub repository will give one URL. So by using this URL, DevOps team can clone the application repository into their servers. But DevOps team operating systems is different. Definitely, the developer 1 is using Windows operating system. Definitely, there will be a configuration differences. So Mac OS operating system configuration is different. Windows operating system configuration different. Linux operating system configuration different. That means definitely there will be a configuration issues. So, but the application is running in their own laptop, it is fine. It is running as expected. But whenever DevOps team clone the application from GitHub and they have deployed their application in their server, but it is not working as expected. Why? But the application is working or running in developer's operating system as expected. But when it comes to DevOps team's operating system or team lead operating system, team lead also want to test. So team lead operating system is different. DevOps team guys operating system is different. Developers operating system also configurations are different. But application is not working as expected in team lead operating system and DevOps guys operating system. Why? Because there will be a configurations are different. There will be a different configurations in their operating system. So for avoiding this kind of, so here we are facing problems. See, that means application is not packaging correctly. That means whenever they are pushing their application source code into GitHub repository, definitely there will be changes. Definitely there will be changes to miss even single line of code, or also to miss one environment variable, and also there is a chance to change path of files, path of code. So these kind of chances are there whenever you are sharing or pushing code into someone or GitHub repository. So whenever if you miss any line of code, if you miss any environment variable, whenever path will be changed in our application source code, definitely application will not run as expected. Why? Because they are not packaging application as a single unit correctly. So, but we need to here we have problem. So for this problem, Docker is providing one solution. How Docker is going to providing a solution? Because so definitely application has one application source code repository, libraries, dependencies, environment variables, configuration files. Whenever they are sharing these many things with someone, there is a chance to miss some things. So that's why application is not running as expected whenever they want to deploy, whenever they want to run the application on their operating system. So that's why there is a Docker. Docker is nothing but Docker will package entire your application source code, libraries, dependencies, environment variables, configuration files as a single unit. So there is no chance to miss any even single line of code, any even single library, dependencies, environment variable, and any file and any path. So that means entire your application is going to package as a single unit. So this package you can share wherever you want to whom you want to share. You can easily share. Then they can run. They can deploy their application in their Docker container wherever they want. Then application will run as expected. So these are the solutions. Because of definitely whenever we deploy any application on local servers, it is working. But when it comes to another operating system, there is configuration changes. So due to operating system configuration changes, so that's why application is not running as expected. But how Docker is going to resolve this issue? Because Docker doesn't carry any operating system. That means Docker will support all kind of operating systems. So you can able to deploy your Docker container on any operating system. It doesn't care about operating system. So that's why Docker is going to package entire your application source code, libraries, dependencies, application environments, configuration files as a single unit. So you can able to share this package to your client, to your team lead, to your DevOps teams. So they can run, they can deploy this application in their Docker container. Now, then application will run as expected. So this is why we are going with Docker. So clear about why Docker? Definitely there will be a different operating system configurations. Operating virtual machines or configuration system differences. So that's why whenever you are going to sharing your application source code with someone, there is a chance due to differentiation of configurations operating system, application may not run as expected. So that's why Docker is providing one solution. Docker will package entire your application source code, libraries, dependencies as a single unit. So that's why we are going with Docker. Now let me explain what is mean by Docker. If you open the new tab, just type Docker docs. Every tool has official document. You don't believe third-party websites and PDFs documents. Every tool has an official document. Just type the tool name, then mention docs. So doc stands for documents. Hit the enter. You will get official document. Click on the Docker docs. Then click on get started. Then click on the what is mean by Docker. See what they are telling. Docker is an open source platform for what? For developing any kind of application, for shipping any kind of application. See, shipping means here. See here, they have developed this application source code. So they are going to shipping to application source into GitHub repository. From GitHub repository, client team lead want to clone the repository, and DevOps team want to clone the repository. So this is why this is a shipping. But Docker will package your application source code, dependency libraries as a single unit. So that single unit you can ship to wherever you want. So this is why this is what shipping. And also running applications. You can easily running your applications. And also Docker enables you to separate your application from your infrastructure. Clear? This is what so far I explained. See what is mean by infrastructure? Operating system, your RAM, your ROM, your system configurations. So this is your laptop is infrastructure. So from your laptop is infrastructure. This is your infrastructure. Inside this infrastructure, you have developed your application. This is your infrastructure. This is your infrastructure. Inside this infrastructure, you have developed your application. But Docker what will do? Docker will separate your application from your infrastructure. So Docker will separate from your infrastructure. So Docker will separate your application from infrastructure. So now there is no any conflicts between your system infrastructure or configurations and what is the version, what is the RAM, ROM, it doesn't care about. So this is how Docker is. See, separate from your application means Docker is going to packaging your application source code and libraries as a single unit. So here we have as a single unit. So that's why they are telling Docker enables you to separate your applications from your infrastructure so you can deliver software quickly. So with Docker, you can manage your infrastructure in same ways. So don't bother about infrastructure. You can manage your infrastructure. Similarly, you can manage your application as well. But this is why we are going, this is what Docker. See, you manage your applications. So by taking advantage of Docker's methodology for shipping application, for testing application, for deploying the code, you can significantly reduce the delay between writing the code and running it production. That means whenever development team develop the code in the same day only, you can test your application by deploying in a Docker container. So this is why they're telling reduce the delay between writing the code and running it in production. So for suppose today development team has developed some part of application source code. Same day only you can deploy that application in Docker. You can test it and run it in production. This is why reduce the delay between the writing the code and running it production. See, Docker is a containerization platform. It will simplify your application deployment process. This is what is mean by Docker. And also Docker platform. See, Docker provides the ability to package. Clearly they're telling. Just now so far I have explained what is mean by what Docker will do. Docker will package your application as a single unit. Simple. Docker is nothing but containerization tool. It will simplify your application deployment process. This is the main objective of Docker. Then let us discuss more about Docker. See, clearly they are telling Docker provides the ability to package and run your application. See, package means as a single unit. You can package entire your application source code. This is what to package, and you can run an application in a loosely isolated environment called container. That means whenever you want to deploy any application in a container, your application will be run in isolated environment. What is mean by isolated environment? To be alone. So isolated environment called a container. This is what is mean by container. That means whenever you are going, that means the process of, let me write here, then it is easy to understand. What is mean by Docker? Just let me write the definition, then it is easy to understand what is mean by Docker. Yeah, let me come here. Why it is changing every time? Yeah, see, Docker, it is nothing but Docker is a containerization tool. It will simplifies your application deployment process. Then what is mean by container? Let me explain. See, container is nothing but the process of packaging your application source code, libraries, dependencies, environment variables, and configuration files as a single unit. As a single unit means it is nothing but it will separate your application from your infrastructure. So this is what mainly Docker and what is mean by Docker container. See, if Docker separates the application for infrastructure, then how the application is tested? Like it needs infrastructure to run like kind of computational power for the infrastructure like CPU, RAM. See, infrastructure means not complete infrastructure. Infrastructure means your local infrastructure. But whenever you want to deploy any application, what do you need? Server, virtual machines. But whenever you are going to deploying any application in a container, you have to create one virtual machines. Inside the virtual machines, your container will deploy your application in a isolated environment. Separation of infrastructure means completely not out of infrastructure, but there is no any conflicts between with your infrastructure and your application. This is what it will separate your application from your infrastructure, not completely from CPU, RAM, operating system. Without having operating system, CPU, RAM, ROM, how can you run your application? It is mandatory things. This is what is meaning of separation of from your application infrastructure. Yes. So let me go to the official document. See, the Docker provides the ability to package and run an application in a loosely isolated environment called a container. So the isolation and security lets you run many containers simultaneously on a given host. That means there will be only virtual machine. There will be only one virtual machine. But on top of one virtual machines, I can run many containers simultaneously. So this is why the isolation and securely lets you. So one container will be run in isolation. Second container will run isolation. Third container will run isolation. That means every container will run in a single in a isolation environment. So this is why we are going with Docker. And also I will answer all your questions at the end of the session. Please look at the screen and I will answer all your questions. I will explain. Don't bother. Just keep your question with you. I will give it time. That time I will answer all your questions. So Docker, let me explain. See, containers are lightweight and contain everything needed to run the application. That means whatever the things requirement to run your application, everything containers will contain to run your application. So you don't need to rely on what's installed on the host machine. So you don't bother about to install this thing, to install that one, to install this one. Don't bother about everything. Will contain to run your application. So you can share your containers while you work, and be sure that everyone you share with gets the same content that works in the same way. That means whenever, for suppose, there will be 4 DevOps teams, 4 DevOps engineers. So you can share the same container with 4 DevOps engineers. They can run their application. They can deploy the application in the same way. So this is why we are going with Docker platform, Docker. So slowly scroll down. Docker. Slowly scroll down. Yeah. So try to understand about what is mean by Docker architecture. So this is all about what is mean by this is all about why Docker, what is Docker, what is container. So now let me explain Docker architecture. See, here you can see client. See, what is mean by client? We are the clients. Before that, let me explain here. See, Docker uses a client server architecture. See, what is mean by client server architecture? The client server architecture is what? Docker client talks to the Docker daemon. So who are the client server architecture in the remote? Docker client talks to the Docker daemon. Then let me explain what is client, Docker client. Who are the Docker client? So we are the Docker clients. Who DevOps engineers are whoever going to run, whoever going to executing the commands. For suppose if I want to run the container, so I need to execute the command Docker run. If I want to build a Docker image, I have to execute the command Docker build. If I want to pull any image, I have to execute the command docker pull. That means whoever going to executing Docker commands, they are Docker client. They are called as a Docker clients. So we are the client. We are going to talking to the Docker daemon. Then what is mean by Docker daemon? Let me explain. See, Docker daemon is nothing but a background server which listens to Docker API request. See, what is the API request? Application programming interface, right? So Docker run. So this is the request. Whenever I run any command, for suppose I want to create a container by using Docker run. So Docker run command will create the container, will start your container. Whenever I execute the command Docker run, the request will go to the Docker daemon. So the actual work Docker daemon only will do. So this is what Docker daemon. Docker daemon is nothing but it is a background server which is listen API request. If you scroll down, I will explain. See, Docker daemon listens for API request. API request is nothing but client, the Docker client. That means we are the clients. So whatever the request we are going to sending to the Docker, so Docker daemon will listen those API requests. For suppose, if you want to build a Docker image, if you want to create the Docker container, if you want to create Docker network, if you want to create Docker volumes, all request Docker daemon will listen for the API, Docker API request. So a daemon can also communicate with other daemons. So Docker daemon is nothing but simply background server. It is a heart for Docker. Without having Docker daemon, we can't do anything. We can't talk with Docker. This is very, very important of Docker daemon. So whenever you send any command, whenever you execute any command, the first request will go to the Docker daemon. Then Docker daemon will forward the request to the particular resources. So here we have objects. What are the objects? Docker images. See here, let me show you where is the Docker images. Yeah, Docker object. So what are the Docker object? Image one of the object, container is one of the object, network and volumes. We have 4 objects in Docker. For suppose I want to build a Docker image. So I need to execute the command Docker build. So the Docker, whenever I execute the command Docker build, the request will go to Docker daemon. So Docker daemon will forward this request to the who will build a Docker image in Docker. So the request will go to the Docker image. So look at the arrow marks. Docker build, the request will go to Docker daemon. The Docker daemon will forward the request who will build Docker image in Docker. So you don't need to talk about image container. Docker only will talk with those objects. Docker daemon only will forward the request to the particular object. Similarly, whenever I want to create the container, so I have to execute the command Docker run. So the request will go to the Docker daemon. So Docker daemon will forward the request to the Docker containers. Similarly, whenever I want to pull Docker image, that means Docker pull is downloading. Whenever I want to download any image, the request will go to the Docker daemon. So the Docker daemon will forward the request to Docker registry. Then let me explain what is meant by Docker registry. Docker registry is nothing but like GitHub repository. See why we will use the GitHub repository, where we can able to store all our application source code. Similarly, there is a Docker registry where we can able to store all our Docker images. So this is what is mean by Docker registry. We can able to store any kind of Docker images in Docker registry. It is a Docker hub or Docker registry, both are same. It's completely open source platform. You don't need to pay anything. So this is all about Docker architecture. So if someone will ask what is the Docker architecture, you should say client server architecture. So what is mean by client server architecture? Docker client talks to the Docker daemon. Then what is meant by Docker daemon? Docker daemon is nothing but it's a background server which listens API request, which listens for Docker API request. And also, let me move forward. Docker daemon, then Docker client. See, the Docker client is the primary way that many Docker users interact with Docker. So whenever you want to interact with Docker, you should have Docker client. We are the Docker client, so don't bother about. So when you use commands such as Docker run, the client sends these commands to Docker D. What is meaning Docker D? Docker D, nothing but Docker daemon. So which carries them out. So the Docker command uses the Docker API. The Docker client can communicate with more than one daemon. So this is what is meant by Docker daemon and Docker client. Since Docker desktop, whenever you want to install Docker on your desktop, you can easily install. See, Docker desktop is an easy to install application for your Mac, Windows, Linux environment that enables you to build and share containerized applications and microservices. So Docker desktop includes the Docker daemon, don't bother about. Then on the Docker client, so on Docker compose and Docker content test trust, Kubernetes and credential helper. So whenever you install Docker on your desktop, these all will be included. Whatever they mentioned here, these all will be included. Don't bother about. Then Docker registry. Already we have discussed. What is mean by Docker registry? Docker registry is nothing but store Docker images. Where we are going to store, that is, it is nothing but Docker registry. So Docker Hub, Docker registry, both are same. It is a public registry that anyone can use. So Docker looks for images on Docker Hub by default. So you can even run your own private registry. So whenever you use the command Docker pull or Docker run commands, Docker pulls the required image from where? From your Docker registry. When you use the Docker push command, Docker pushes your image to Docker registry. Pushing means storing Docker image into Docker registry. Pulling means downloading the image from Docker registry. So this is all about what is meant by Docker registry. Now let me move on. Docker objects. See what is meant by Docker objects. See, when you use Docker, you are creating using images, containers, networks, volumes, plugins, and other objects. See, let me explain the first object. What is mean by first object? Image. See, what is the image? Docker image is nothing but it is a read-only template which instructions for creating a Docker container. That means whenever you want to create any container, you should have Docker image. Without having Docker image, you cannot create any container. Then what is meant by Docker image? It's a read-only template with having instructions. That means Docker image will contain your application source code, dependencies, libraries, and configuration files environments. So this is what is meant by Docker image. So let me go to the containers. Already we have discussed. What is meant by container? Container is a runnable instance of an image. That means you can create the container, you can start the container, you can stop the container, you can move the container, and you can delete a container using Docker API and CLI. So you can connect a container to one or more networks. So this is what is meant by Docker containers and images. So now let me hold on a moment. Now you can ask your questions. Now you can ask your questions. Let me open the chat box. Yeah. Docker helps with the containerization and Kubernetes helps with managing those containers, right? Yes. Docker will create the container. Kubernetes will manage the container. Please, you can post your question in the chat box. I will answer all your questions. It simplifies deployment process or delivery process. It will simplify deployment process. Docker, Abdul asked question. Docker will simplify deployment process. Delivery is about another tool. We will discuss later. Then Docker creates a sandbox for your application. Why Docker create Docker sandbox? Why you are bringing sandbox in Docker? Others, please. Once tell me Docker pull. See, Docker pull is nothing but you are going to download the image from Docker registry. My bad, an isolated instance. Okay, Docker image. See, Docker image is nothing but it is a read-only template. It will contain your application source code, libraries, dependencies. This is what Docker image. It's a read-only template. Any questions? Please can ask. Here I am waiting for your questions. Use the chat box. Show the template of Docker image. Yes, Priyanka, I will explain how to create, how can able to show the Docker image. Please wait. We'll discuss about the Docker image template. Others? Any questions? Docker daemon is a heart for Docker daemon is a heart for Docker. That means which listens any request. Docker daemon will it is nothing but a background servers. Docker daemon is the background service that does the actual work. See, whenever you send a Docker any command, whenever you execute any Docker command, the request will go to the Docker daemon only. So that command work Docker daemon will do. The actual work will be done by the Docker daemon only. That is what Docker daemon. See, if you want to build a Docker image, you execute the Docker image command, Docker image build command. Then who will build the Docker image? Docker daemon only will do the actual work. This is what Docker daemon. Do we run Docker on our local system or run it wherever you can't? Wherever, if you want to run your Docker, you can run. It may be Windows, it may be Mac OS, it may be AWS, Azure, GCP, wherever you want. Is it free to use? Yes, Docker is completely open source platform. Docker daemon is command or server. It's a server. Docker daemon is server, not a command. Sit, sir, does mean it solves the portability issues. Like not all systems will have libraries or set up local system. Yes. Yes, Samrat, you are right. How can we save the images? See, save images is nothing but pushing the images. I will explain later. I will explain how to save, how to pull, how to store. All these things will be explained later. Just wait a moment. Any questions? Please, you can ask. Use the chat box. Just post your question. Feel free to ask any question. Yes, it's recording. Don't keep your questions with you. Please expose in the chat box. Okay, no questions. So let's move on. Let's move on. Okay, so now let me explain Docker workflow. See, so far we have discussed why Docker, what is Docker platform, and Docker architecture also we have discussed. At your free time, please visit this website. Please explore more about Docker, then it is easy to understand. Sir, all dependencies and libraries pre-install on Docker or we have to install them. You have to define, that's a different concept. You don't need to, but for your question, answer is you don't need to install, no need to pre-install any libraries and dependencies. And we don't need to install them. Docker only will do this job. Yeah. Let's move on. Okay, keep your question with you. Again, I will give time. That time you can ask. So Docker architecture, we have discussed Docker objects, Docker daemon, client, desktop, registries, all these things we have discussed. Now let me explain Docker workflow. It is very, very important. So let me explain. See, whenever you want to deploy any application, what you need? Firstly, how we can able to start any application if we want to deploy any Docker. See, firstly, you need one Docker file. Whenever you want to deploy any application in a Docker, firstly you need one Docker file. Then let me explain what is mean by Docker file. So just visit same for every concept there is a official document. Just type Docker file, then docs, then you will get the official information of Docker file. Click on the Docker file reference. See what is mean by Docker file. Docker can build images automatically by reading the instructions from where? From a Docker file. So what is mean Docker file? Docker file is a text document. Docker file is a text document that contains all the commands a user could call on the command line to assemble an image. See, someone asked, sir, do we need dependencies, libraries pre-install? No, you have to define the instructions. Where are the instructions? Yeah, here. You have to define that instructions in a Docker file. Then Docker file will take care of those dependencies, libraries. That means Docker only will handle to install dependencies and libraries. So this is what is Docker file. Docker file is a text document. It will contain all the commands a user could call and command line to assemble an image. So this is all about what is meant by Docker file. So whenever you want to write any Docker file, you should use instructions. So here there is instruction, there is a description. So around totally we have 17 or 18 instructions we have. So this is all about what is meant by Docker file. Then clearly they are telling Docker can build images automatically by reading the instructions from a Docker file. Then it is nothing but by using Docker file, we have to build a Docker image. So once you have Docker file, you have to build a Docker image by using the Docker file. So let me get the Docker image. Let me add color. Remember the workflow. It is very, very important. Then Docker image. What is meant by Docker image? It's a readable template which contain application source code, libraries, dependencies. So by using the Docker file only, you can able to build a Docker image. It means without having Docker file, it is impossible to build in Docker image. Remember this point. Then what is meant? Already we have discussed what is meant by Docker image. Then what next? The image we have to store into Docker registry. The image we have to store in Docker registry or Docker hub. Docker registry or Docker hub. See what is Docker registry? Where we are going to store all our application, all our Docker images. This is a Docker registry. Okay, fine. We have Docker. You have a Docker file. You have Docker image. The image has been stored in Docker registry. Then what next? This is the final step. Ultimate goal, Docker container. Then by using Docker container on Docker image only, we can able to create our container. That means without having Docker image, it is impossible to create any container. Remember this point. Whenever you want to, so now let me explain the flow from bottom. See, if you want to build a Docker image, you need Docker. If you want to create Docker container, you need Docker image. So if you want Docker image, you need Docker file. So without having Docker file, we cannot build in Docker image. Without having Docker image, we cannot create any container. So this is the workflow. Whenever you want to deploy any application, using Docker. Firstly, you have to write Dockerfile, build a Docker image, store the Docker image in Docker registry. Then you can build you can able to create a container by using the Docker image. So this is what is mean. This is Docker workflow. So now let me explain how we can able to install Docker. We have to install Docker. Let me explain. I need one server. Let me go to my AWS console management. Let me create one account. Let me create one account. Let me launch one EC2 instance. Yeah, let me name Docker for the server. Here I'm going to choose Ubuntu operating system. You guys also choose Ubuntu operating system because it is very flexible. Then come down. I'm going with T2 small. T2 small. Then come down. Choose key pair. Storage I'm giving up to 10 GB. It's fine. Then click on launch instance. Let me close these instances. Click on the instances. Look for your Docker instance. It's pending. We need to wait up to running state. Yeah, it's running. Click on connect. Go with SSH client. Copy the host name and address. Go to the open the putty server. Provide host name, appearance, change 14, connection 60 seconds, SSH, auth, credentials, browse, select your key pair, open, accept. Yeah. So I have connected my my server, Ubuntu virtual machine. Let me become as a root user. So let me immediately we have to update our operating system. APT is a package manager for Ubuntu operating system. IPT stands for Advanced Package Tool. It's updating. Still, it is updating. Yeah, it's done. Clear the screen. Now let me explain. So whenever we want to work with Docker, you should install Docker firstly. So let me explain how we can able to install the Docker. So before that, let me check the version, whether it is available or not. How can you check the Docker version? The command is Docker. Yeah, sorry. Thank you for remembering. Take a break for 15 minutes. Session will be continue by 8:15. Everyone go for break. Come back by 8:15. Yeah, hey guys, I hope you came back. Can someone confirm in the chat box? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your confirmations. Let me share my screen. Yeah. So now we had understand about how we can able to install Docker on any operating system. So first, let me explain how we can able to install Docker on Ubuntu operating system. See, before that, I want to show you how to check the Docker version, whether it is installed or not, whether it is available or not. So the command is docker space hyphen version. If I hit the enter, let's see what will happen. See, clearly it is telling command not found. That means whenever you see that line command not found, that means the tool or software is not available. The tool or software is not installed on your OS. So that is the thing you have to remember. But can be installed with. That means Ubuntu is giving some commands. You can, by using these commands, you can able to install. So if you want to install this version, use this command. If you want this version, use second command. If you want a version this one, use the third command. If you want a version this version, use this command. But it's a shortcut. But let me explain official way. In here, out of 4 commands, you can use this command apt install docker.io. It is a suggestible command. Using this command, you can able to install Docker. It's a shortcut, but this trick will work on only Ubuntu operating system. This trick will it won't work on any other operating system. So that's why I told you Ubuntu is very flexible operating system. If you, for suppose if you don't know any command, for suppose I want to install Docker, but I don't know the command, just type the Docker word. Just type the Docker word, it will give commands. So by using any one of the command, you can able to install. For suppose I don't know if I want to install Apache software. See, it is clearly telling you can install by using this command. For suppose if I want to install Java, just type the Java tool name. See, Java 17, 21, default version 19, version 20, version 22, 11, 8. You can able to choose which version you want to Java, you want to install. So this is how Ubuntu is going to help to install any software by using the commands. If for suppose if you want to install Python, just type Python. See, command not found, but you can able to install by using this command. For suppose if you want to install MySQL, so you can use this command to install MySQL. So this is the flexibility of Ubuntu operating system. Now let me explain the official way how you can enable install Docker from the official document. Just go to your browser, open the new tab, just type Docker install on Ubuntu operating system. Please remember, don't forget to specify your operating system. So now I'm using Ubuntu operating system. So that's why I have specified Ubuntu operating system. Hit the enter. So click on the first link. Install Docker engine on Ubuntu operating system. Click the first link. Yeah, prerequisites. So what are the prerequisites? OS requirements. You have any one of the OS requirement. Ubuntu, Oracular, Ubuntu Noble, Ubuntu Gemi. I think my operating system is Ubuntu Noble 24.04 LTS. No problem. Then architecture. Yes, same architecture also I'm using. No problem. Then come down. Down. Yeah, look for installation methods. So whenever you want to install, look for installation methods. So come down, click on the installation methods. So slowly scroll down. See what is it telling? Yeah, what it is telling? Before you install Docker engine for the first time on a new host machine. Yes, it is the new host machine. So it is the first time. You need to set up a Docker apt repository. Why it is showing apt? Because of I have given the prompt Docker install on Ubuntu operating system. So that's why Ubuntu operating system package manager is apt. So that's why it is telling, please set up the Docker apt repository. Afterward, you can install that. You can install and update Docker from the repository. So first I said, let me set up a Docker apt repository. So by using these commands, you can able to set up a Docker apt repository. So copy the commands at a time by clicking here, come to the server, just give right click, hit the enter. Just stay on tune. Yeah, that's done. Now go for the field document. Slowly scroll down slowly. Then second step, what is the second step? Install the Docker packages. So if you want the latest version, use this command. If you want specific version, click, you can choose any one of the specific version. But I will go with the latest only. So to install the latest version, run this command. So copy this command by clicking here. I copied, come to the server, just give right click, hit the enter. Just stay tuned. See, remember, whenever you execute any command, please don't go back. Look at the screen, what it is telling. Now, what here it is telling? Look at the screen, bottom of left side, bottom of the screen. It is clearly telling, do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. Type by. For suppose if you don't specify Y or N, it won't install Docker. So that's why remember, look at the screen. You have to read that entire command. Do you want to continue? Yes, type Y, hit the enter. Now it will install Docker on this virtual machine. Then what next? We have to check the version of Docker, whether it is installed or not. Once it is done, I will show you the version also. Yeah, Docker space --- version, hit the enter. See, I can see version 28.3.0. This is the build number. I want same time, similarly, I want to check status whether my Docker is running or not. So how can I check whether my Docker is running or not? What is the command? The command is same as we have discussed for Apache server. How we have checked the Apache server status? Same command, service, then Docker, then status. Hit the enter. See, it's active and running. It's fine. Now, let me explain how we can able to. First, today, I will explain how to pull the images which are available. Okay. Let me go with Docker workflow. It's better. So go for the Docker workflow. Then what is the first workflow? Dockerfile. So already we have discussed it. So what is mean by Dockerfile? So let me explain more about Dockerfile. Open the new tab. So this is how we can able to install. Meanwhile, let me explain how to install Docker on desktop. I forgot. Okay, just look at the screen. If you don't have AWS account, if you don't have any account, any cloud account, please you can install Docker on your laptops. You can work on whatever you want. It's completely free. Let me explain how to install Docker on desktop. Just type Docker install on Windows. I'm using Windows, so that's why I'm specifying Windows. Hit the enter. See, install Docker desktop on Windows. Click on the first link. Yeah, look at the screen. See, Docker, this page provides download links, system requirements, and step-by-step installation instructions for Docker desktop on Windows. See, please choose what is your system architecture. Mostly, Windows operating system architecture is x86_64 only. So please choose what is your system architecture. Then click on the link. For suppose if I'm using Windows, my system architecture is x86_64. If I click on here, it will download. See, look at the screen. It is downloading. It's around 580 MB. 580 MB. See, once it is done, just do double click, then it will be installed on your Docker system, on your local system. Then you can work on. Yeah, it's done already. It's done. Now let me show you. Already I have installed Docker. Look at the screen. Yeah, Docker in Docker desktop. So here I have installed. So this is how you can able to install Docker. For suppose if I want to see the version, Docker version in my local server, I will show you. Just type Docker space. Let me clear the screen. Yeah, just type. Let me type the Docker space --- version. The enter. See, Docker version is available. That means I have installed Docker desktop on my desktop. So this is how you can able to install Docker on your desktop. So just go to the Google, just click on the link, just do double click on the downloaded file, it will be installed. That's it. It's simple. So let me go for Dockerfile. What is mean by Dockerfile? Already we have discussed what is mean by Dockerfile. Dockerfile is nothing but Dockerfile is a text document which contains instructions and also whenever you remember that there is a syntax. Whenever you want to create any Docker file, you have the first letter should be capital, then like that you have to create Docker file. If you give small d, it won't consider as a Docker file. So remember this syntax. I will show you the demo also. Look at the screen. If you look at the screen, there is a Docker file. So there is a Docker file. Let me rename it. Yeah, it's a Docker file. For suppose, see here it is showing Docker logo. In front of the file, I can see Docker logo because of I have specified capital D. If I remove the capital D, Docker logo is not available. It's removed. If I mention, okay, it is working, but it won't consider a Docker file. So mention the capital D only. That's it. Now let me explain more about Dockerfile. So whenever you want to write a Dockerfile, firstly create a Dockerfile named with capital D, Dockerfile. Then you have to understand about instructions. All I told you, whenever you want to write a Dockerfile, you should understand about Docker instructions. So these instructions you have to understand. So let me explain what are the instructions we have to use whenever you want to write a Docker file. So let me go to the OneNote. Let me take. Remember, you can in the entire world, you can take any Docker file. The Docker file should begin with from instruction. And also remember, whenever you are going to writing a Docker file, all instructions should be written in capital letters only. You should not use lowercase letters while you are going to writing or using instructions in Dockerfile. And also the first Dockerfile, the Dockerfile should begin with from instructions only. Then what is mean by from instruction? That means it will specify base image for your application. That means what is mean by base image? Let me explain. What is meant by base image? See, while we are discussing HD instance static web applications, we have deployed one static web application, static web applications on HD instance. So that time we have chosen Apache as a web server. So similarly, whenever you want to deploy any application, you should choose a base image for your application. For suppose, if I want to deploy Python application, so I have to specify Python as a base image. That means you are going to specifying a platform for your application. This is what from instructions. So for suppose I want to build a Python application. So for that, I want to specify, I want to deploy I want to write a Python application, Dockerfile. So how can I specify? I should specify Python as a base image. How can I specify? Then Python, for suppose latest version you got to use, then latest version. For suppose I want to specify, I want to deploy Node.js application. So just Node:\latest. Node:\latest. For suppose if I want to deploy Java applications, So open JDK colon, if you want to use specific version, use specific version. For suppose if I want deploy static web application, use Ubuntu colon latest. So this is how we can able to specify, how can able to use the from instructions in Dockerfile. So what is meant by from instruction? It will specify base image for your application. So like this, we can able to specify base image using the from instructions. Then what is the next one? Maintainer. So what is mean by maintainer? Let me explain. That means it will specify Dockerfile author. It will specify Dockerfile author. So how can you specify maintainer? Let me explain. How can you able to specify the maintainer? For suppose like that. Let me mention my email ID. muralisocial123@gmail.com. So like that, you can able to specify the maintainer name. So the maintainer will specify who is the author of Dockerfile. Then what is the next instruction? Work directory. See what is mean by work directory? See, whenever I told you what Docker container will do, Docker container will do. Docker container is nothing but it is the process of packaging your application source code, libraries, dependencies, environment variables, configuration files in as a single unit. Who will where Docker can keep all these things. So whenever you want to keep, for suppose, if you want to store your application source code in GitHub repository, what you need? You need one repository. So this is my repository, retail application app, Kubernetes. So inside this repository, I have stored all my application source code files. Similarly, whenever you want to deploy any application in a container, so Docker requires one directory like GitHub repository. So who will create or who will specify that working directory for the container? That means the work directory. It will specify a working directory in your container, inside the container or in your container, inside the container. So that means whenever that means all your application source code files, libraries, dependencies, environment variables, and configuration files will be available inside the container. So inside the container, Dockerfile will create one work directory. Let me explain how we can able to specify the work directory. Just use work directory, give space, then mention /app. So like that you can able to give user. Like that you can able to specify the working directory. Mohan. Then Murli. So like that you can able to create the directory for your container. So this is all about what is mean by work directory. Yeah. So this is what is meant by work directory. So now let me explain next instructions. Next instruction. Let me divide. Maintainer from instruction, then work directory. So work directory will create a working directory for your application inside the Docker container. Then what is the next instructions? Copy. See what is mean by copy instruction? Copy instructions, it will copy all your application source code, libraries, dependencies into your container working directory. So where is the directory? Here we have specified working directory for the container. So inside this directory, inside this directory, Docker will copy instruction will copy all your application source code files. Entire your repository will be copied inside the container directory. So how copy instructions will copy? Let me explain. Just use type copy, give space. Firstly, should specify source code path. Source code path. That means where your source code is available. Then destination path. Destination path. Destination path. For suppose if you want to copy all files, see the first dot stands for current directory. Second dot stands for inside the container working directory. So this is how copy instructions will copy all your application source code files, dependencies, libraries inside the container working directory. So this is all about what is mean by copy instructions. So I'm stopping here. Anyone having any questions, please you can ask so far. So far, anyone having any questions, please you can ask. Anyone any questions? Please. So where does Docker, okay, in a typical CI/CD pipeline, at what stage do we build Docker images, and where Docker does compose orchestration fit in this workflow? See, Swapnil will discuss later. We are going discussing about CI/CD pipeline on Docker, all these things. Later, you can able to get this information. And where where does Docker fit in the dev lifecycle? Staging environment. In development lifecycle, in SDLC, we have a staging environment, production environment. There Docker will fit. And others, anyone having any questions, please you can ask. Any questions so far? Okay, no questions. Sir, is there a format to write a Docker file? Yes, is there a format? Next class we will discuss that format. In next class we will discuss Dockerfile format. Any questions, please you can ask. I am here to answer your questions. Please post your questions in the chat box. Sir, there is a class tomorrow. No, Monday. We have a class on Monday. Yeah. Susmita?
Yes, sir.
Today I'm wind up a session by 8:40. I need to travel this night. I have a bus at 9 p.m. So today I'm going
Okay.
to 8:50 only. 8:40. So
Yeah, okay.
we'll connect on Monday, Susmita.
Yeah, sure, sir. No problem.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. See you in next class. Please try to practice all the sessions. If you are facing any issues, please you can ask our questions, our issues in next class on Monday. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, so students, as sir informed, he has some emergency thing, so he have to leave now. So I will wait for 5 more minutes. Like, if any questions to be asked for me, you can ask, and I'll be sharing attendance link on the chat. You can just mark your attendance. So we'll wait for 5 minutes, then we will wind up. Exactly at 8:45, I'll be winding up the session. So please mark your attendance. I'll be sharing it once again. And one more thing, as you all know, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, that will be on weekends. We don't have, weekends. We don't have a session. We'll connect again on Monday at 7 p.m. Okay, yeah, I'll be sharing our attendance link now. If you have not marked it, kindly mark your attendance.